Democratic-led coalition here in Johannesburg could be in crisis, or are they there already? Coalition partners played a hand in the sacking of DA Speaker Vasco da Gama. It was through a motion of no confidence yesterday. Da Gama was accused of bullying and maladministration. Well, let's find out where we are on this. I'm joined by Bongani Nkomo, DA Deputy Caucus Leader for the City of Joburg. Very good afternoon to you, Bongani. Thanks for your time in joining us as well. How does that feel, knowing coalition members sacked your Speaker of Council?
First and foremost, good afternoon to you and your viewers, Gareth. Obviously, we are in shock, and we do feel an element of betrayal. But this is a minor setback. I think it's not a case of we were betrayed by our coalition partners, but rather individuals that chose to abandon their conscience and obviously vote for other reasons.
It doesn't bode well for talk of coalition governments. They just have not had a good run, have they, at a municipal and provincial level? And there's even talk, Bongani, of course, about 2024, the ANC could lose even more support. We could end up with a coalition national government. But this doesn't paint a very good picture if there's so much infighting.
Well, in Joburg, we find ourselves with a 9-party coalition arrangement. And I think this is actually a good dress rehearsal for what we can expect in 2024. But I think what yesterday's events sort of put us in a position to do is that's learn from the lessons of obviously strengthening, our relationships with our coalition partners, but as well as being wary of every trick in the book that our opposition will try.
Who stabbed Vasco da Gama in the back? Yeah,
look, I think I need to put it into context. We had a meeting an hour before the motions with our coalition partners. And all our coalition partners were present around the table, barring the ATM, the URM, as well as COPE. So I can already tell you that already tells you, who the culprits are, as well as, one councillor from the IFP. What's interesting to note, though, is the ACDP had 3 councillors, and out of 3, 2 voted for the motion and 1 chose to vote in line with his with the multi-party agreement.
Help me understand, just take me into the world of council politics for a moment. How is it that we go into, or how do you go into these coalitions? Everyone seems to be on the same page, and then just a few hours before there's a no confidence vote, it looks like you lose support from people that you thought were going to give it to you. What happens in these coalition talks where things flip-flop like this?
Well, I think you need to see a coalition government like a marriage. There needs to be consistent communication as well as finding each other. And we do have platforms where our partners can do that. We have the multi-party caucuses just before council, as well as, a management team meeting just before council. And that's where, obviously, our partners can raise concerns, which obviously some of them did. And we thought we had ironed them out. But when we obviously got to the vote, something else played out.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we're going to use your analogy of Joburg Council is like a marriage, who's the marriage counsellor at the moment? Who's going to bring you all back together? Because clearly the DA doesn't have the friends you thought that you did. You have to repair those relationships. Who's the marriage counsellor?
I think with every marriage, you need to understand why you're doing it. And we're doing it for the residents of the City of Joburg. They are first and foremost our priority. But I'm sure you know that a meeting was held at 1 p.m. This afternoon with the technical team. So they're obviously thrashing out, the challenges, and they're trying to obviously find each other on what transpired yesterday.
Was Vasco da Gama a bully?
Definitely not. I think Vasco da Gama is a victim of his own humility. In fact, in one of the motions, he was accused of being too nice. And I think that speaks to his accommodating nature. I mean, this is an individual with 20 years of experience. He speaks over 10 different languages. So obviously communication is not a problem when it comes to Vasco da Gama. But obviously people will take advantage of him. And that's what we saw every month in the council sittings with the ANC and the EFF taking advantage.
So what is the name the DA puts forward now to hopefully put back in that very, very important seat in council? Who's the DA's name?
There's no point in fixing what's not broken. The issue here is not Vasco da Gama. And I think I should make you an example. Yesterday, we had obviously the motion of no confidence. There was very little disruptions. It's actually the best I've seen the ANC and the EFF behave. But obviously, that's because they had a vested interest in the motion going forward. And that tells you that the person sitting on the chair, which was Vasco da Gama at the time, is not the problem.
So what happens now as far as your discussions with coalition partners that were your partners at one point? Some of them flipped on you. Do you have a list of parties that you will now go back to? And do you have a blacklist of parties that you won't bother with going forward again? Surely you've had that discussion.
Look, I think obviously what's important here is that we do have a coalition agreement. And as I've mentioned, the multi-party was meeting earlier this afternoon. I was unfortunately not in that meeting, so I cannot tell you at this stage what transpired. But obviously, there does need to be consequences for breaking an agreement and obviously betraying the residents of the City of Joburg.
Speaking of the residents of Joburg, I want to just end off and say thanks for joining me, but I want to put this last question in as well. You were saying this is all for residents. It's what the DA does in council. This vote of no confidence, Vasco da Gama out, what has that meant for residents of Joburg? How is it affecting our lives every day?
Look, I think the mayor came out very strong to say that we are still resolute and we are still committed in serving the residents of the City of Joburg. And this is a stumbling block. But obviously, Vasco da Gama is, the individual that sits in council that ensures that there is a smooth process when we are passing certain items and are deliberating on issues that affect the residents. So it is a setback, but it's a minor setback, and I think it will be corrected very soon.
Well, let's say it's a dynamic democracy in our country. That's what some people are calling it. So I appreciate your time this afternoon. Bongani Nkomo, DA Deputy Caucus Leader for the City of Johannesburg.